You may come in now. So, I mentioned earlier this week that I would be grading some theories that have been presented. Now, I do want to say my hair is very wet. I just got out of the shower, so we're going to be cool about that. And one of the main questions was, well, how am I sourcing these theories? Well, we have a live chat forum, and I can see you right now. Now, you can't see yourselves, but luckily, I can at least make Twitch chat visible. I still can't make YouTube chat visible on stream, but I can see you. Well, I just got in. I think it's time that we grade some theories. Also, it's a pea coat, not a suit. Get it right. Now, I will warn you, I think most of my redeems won't work in the office. After all, this is a professional setup here. What is that, lighting? Lightning. There's lightning? I gotta get this mic out of my face. I can't focus. So, the basic way this is gonna go, if any of you have been around for a long time, you'll remember the thesis streams, where I forgave your theory sins. Think of this as an evolution of that, where I will be here for the next however long we feel like it, grading the theories you put into the chat right now. Call me the professor because class is in session. So I guess just shoot them off. We'll just go from there. Here's my theory. Why did they make Vandy so thick? Starting off strong. D. Because that's what Scott Cawthon was thinking with when he created that character design. Next. Will the felines also be grading our theories, or do they have more important matters to attend to? I know not the comings and goings of the feline creatures that walk through this room. They come and go as they please, and I dare not get in their way. What does the A stand for in SA? That's a question, not a theory, but my guess is probably Afton. Rye, I have a crazy theory that connects FNAF to Minecraft story mode. Reese, you can DM me. DM it to me. I'll grade it like an essay. Baby is the one speaking through Fredbear Plush in FNAF 4. William can't do it as we see him in the closet with the employee moments after Fredbear Plush speaks on Night 2's minigame. I do like that. We don't have a lot of evidence to suggest it, besides the fact that it seems unlikely William is doing it, and Baby could be because she's in the same building. I like that a lot. I don't know how I feel about the timeline implications of that. Hop in a call? Yeah, I can call you into my office. Reese POV. Alright, looks like we're waiting a little bit, so you all can come back in. That's fine. Door stream pog. No, it's fine. You can come in. Ah, Mizla. Okay, we got a shout out for Mizla. the wonderful artists who actually made this whole office. So you can all thank them. Welcome to my office. What is the hell you're about to unleash on us?
Okay, you actually might tweak about this one, okay? It's actually
All right,
crazy.
Let me double check that everyone can hear you. Folks, can you hear Reese?
Alright. Hello?
Yep, okay, cool.
Okay, perfect. Okay, this is actually the craziest thing I've ever discovered. I genuinely believe in this theory, okay?
All right, lay it on me.
Okay. So have you ever played Minecraft Story Mode Season 1?
I've seen a couple clips. I haven't played it myself.
Alright, so I think in episode 7, it takes place in this, like, redstone, like, world, okay? Where there's this giant TV, or, like, computer that, like, takes over this entire village that, like, Jesse and the rest of the gang go to explore. So in that village, this computer has, like, mind control over the entire, like village area, okay? So our goal, we go with this girl named Harper, we go with her to her lab to try and stop this, like, giant computer lady from taking over the whole town. So how we do that is we actually put on a VR headset and we, like, go throughout the area, like, transforming into these mobs, trying to get to this this computer named Palma, okay? And we go throughout, and the funniest thing about this is, like, the mind control with the VR, everything like that, it just, to me, it really stood out. And the whole time I was streaming it, I was thinking, wow, this really, like, reminds me of, like, Glitch Trap, like Help Wanted with the VR headset, like everything else like that. And as I'm nearing the end of the game, I'm seeing the end credits of the game, and J-Top voices Palma in this game.
That's crazy. I was like lining up my shot of just, and why should I care? I was getting so ready to just hit it to the fences.
No.
That's crazy.
Gun. Yeah. Like, J-Top voices this computer with mind control that you use a VR headset to defeat, and, like, that it tries to take over the VR headset while you're using it. Like, I saw that and I was like, holy crap, this is Help Wanted. Like, this predicted Help Wanted.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give that an A+, and I hate that I'm doing this.
Yes! Yes!
That's crazy.
I know! Yeah, I just had to share that. I just think about it, like, all the time.
I'm gonna not be able to sleep tonight staring at the ceiling. And I'm going to be watching that whole Minecraft Story Mode on YouTube tonight.
Good, you
losing
should.
my mind.
It's insane. It's insane.
Well, thank you for the call-in. Folks,
Yes,
make sure to
of
go and
course,
follow
of
I Am
course.
Reese, friend of the channel.
Yes, thank you. You have to play it sometime.
That
Give me your
person.
thoughts. I'm
I'll
telling
watch it.
you.
I don't
Fair.
I don't like playing those kinds of games. I get really bored.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I've got stupid poopy monkey brain. I need things to go fast. I can't do it.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for the call-in.
Yes,
And
thank you.
unfortunately, Minecraft Story Mode gets an A+.
Yes.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
That's an insane second theory to do. Jack Black is canon to the FNAF universe. Isn't he also canon to the Amazing Digital Circus universe? And if so, does that mean Amazing Digital Circus and FNAF are in the same universe? D for that theory. It's bad. All right, let's get some of these bigger paragraphs. Let me really grade some of these big theories that I'm seeing. Opinionated Fox, what do you think of the theory that Steel Wool is building up Mimic to be the main killer who sparked the missing children's incident, going so far as to replace Wayne Afton entirely? Between writing off the original games as non-canon, thanks Steve Snodgrass, and having the methods in which the mimic kills shockingly similar, if not identical to the methods in which William killed, dressing in mascot costumes, stuffing kids, what steel wool air evidence do we have that William was the killer? It's an interesting theory you've proposed. One of my main problems would be, if the mimic is the one who originally did the missing child incident, the question would be why? The mimic mimics, as is its nature and its name. So it would need to see something to make it want to do that, which is strange in the first place. I mean, I guess you could argue that it was just putting kids in suits because it saw William helping an employee into a springlock suit. But the counterpoint with that would be that, like, you know, it still has to lead them into a back room and do it one by one. It's not just like a yoink and run kind of situation. The thing about the mimic is, although it's quite smart, it's not very stealthy. It's very, like, and I mean that in the sense of, like, when it's hunting and stuff, sure, it'll hide in a suit and it'll jump out at you. But if we're imagining, like, the missing child incident, as far as we know, took place during the day. So I don't see the mimic luring kids off of the dining floor during the day unless specifically instructed to. That being said, it is entirely possible, and I could even see maybe the dead child incident is the rewrite, and now that's what the mimic did, copying William from the missing child incident. There's something there. I don't think it's likely. I'm settling on a C. Which, hey, C's get degrees. National PV with the incredibly kind $10. Freddy as a character has existed since the ancient times in the FNAF universe. Yes, the colonists entertain themselves with Freddy Fazbear. Anyway, love your vids. Well, thank you for the $10. You joke. There is something in ancient ephemera about these FNAF characters. In the sense that if we look at the building of Murray's Costume Manor, there's that painted glass of the wagon with this whole mask theming. And it kind of seems like maybe this mask thing was an ancient caravan that was this like ancient circus performance that's continued throughout. We have no evidence for that, and if you submitted it, I would give you an F. But it's something worth keeping an eye on, and like maybe that's where they're going. I think it's a cool concept, but we don't have evidence for it. Take a long one from YouTube since I just took a long one from Twitch. Bold Indie, DCI Golden Accessory. It's Will being forced to use the Golden Freddy to commit the DCI instead of Spring Bonnie because the latter is stuck at the MCI Freddy's safe room that becomes the FNAF 1 years later. Oh, so you're saying that DCI was done with the Fredbear suit because Spring Bonnie is still stuck at the original Freddy safe room. I mean, I like it. We have no evidence for it, but it doesn't change too much in the grand scheme of things. The only problem would be, isn't the Vengeful Spirit's body in there? I give it I give it a D+. Tomfoolery TP. Hear me out. The Blob or Tangle is Cassidy, and the reason why she is more powerful is because she has more agony. After the FNAF 6 fire, she gets all the agony and parts and uses it to create Ultimate Custom Night, and puts Afton in it. So in Security Breach, the reason they attack you is because they'll do anything to get Afton back. I've said this before. I like this theory a lot, actually. The idea that the Mangle is not like a physical Ultimate Custom Night, but rather this manifestation of everyone's agony involved in this incident being concentrated and focused into Cassidy. And knowing how agony works in the games, then that does track in the idea that, you know, the more agony, the more powerful you are, and you can use agony to throw someone into this memory hell pit. We see Eleanor do this directly. I like this theory a lot. One of the issues with it is you have to assume that by Security Breach, Afton is still around, likely in Burn Trap. So then the question becomes, okay, well, what's going on with that? And that's a question you have to answer, but it's not a point against you. I'd say B+ for that theory. Hear me out, I have a silly theory. Well, your name is Clownful Productions, so I'll give it to you. What if the Night Force Springlock suit is for William to kill children in... Wait. What if the Night Force Springlock suit is for William to kill children in after their use is no longer needed in the chambers? Oh! So you're saying the sister location Night Force Springlock suit is not a real character, but instead just something to kill children with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain that in sister location, Circus Baby mentions that that was used, but not what it was meant for. Oh, no, that would support it. I feel like there's a mention of it being used directly, but I could just be wrong. That would be the way it wasn't supposed to be used. Yeah, exactly. No, you know what? I like it. There's not a lot of evidence to suggest this. But I do like it, and I did mute my Discord. Apologies for the random bumps. Perfect timing, I just looked back at Twitch. I have a huge theory from DotaCheck3. I have a huge theory. I give that previous one a B+. I have a huge theory about the Happiest Day minigames. I can't put it all here, so use the very short TLDR. Understandable. Chica, Mangle, and Balloon Boy, as characters, are all from Chica's party world. The characters we play as in the Happiest Day minigames are all representations of the 6 toy animatronics cast from FNAF 2. Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie are based on Fredbear's Spring Bonnie. The big dark silhouettes symbolize William's victims, with Puppet being Charlie, 5 Cupcakes being MCI, and 3 BBs unknown. Yeah, I think the symbolism in the Happiest Day minigames is very interesting. Your idea of linking Chica, Mangle, and Balloon Boy as Chica's Party World characters, I think, is warranted. I've drawn the connection myself of Balloon Boy originating at Chica's Party World. I think that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I connected it not to to Circus Baby's Pizza World. Which Mangle, if Mangle is Funtime Foxy, would also be linked to. Chica is more interesting, but there might be some overlap between those two restaurants. Interesting theory. I would need to read the full thing for a more fair grade, but I'll give you a solid B. Zach with the $5, incredibly kind. Hey Riot, why do you think Vanny did not appear in Escape the Pizzaplex? This would have been the perfect opportunity for Scott to include her. Being so real. The more I read Escape the Pizzaplex, the more I have a feeling that it's similar to a security breach situation, where Scott didn't tell the lore to the person creating it, so they were just kind of going off of what they knew and an initial premise. And I think, and you know, I have no evidence to suggest this besides just reading the book, I think that the author was scared to make any strong lore arguments or pieces of evidence in case it was incorrect and would have to be changed at a tight deadline. That's my thinking. I have no evidence for this. You know, you can rate that theory however you like, but that's probably why Vanny wasn't included. Thank you for the $5. That's very kind. Archangel with an Afton or a major character close to Michael must be alive in Security Breach because of a certain thing such as the mic room and the toys from FNAF 4 being displayed as trophies in the main area. You raise a solid point. I would argue that the existence of the Mimic and what it wants to do can explain away a lot of those things. The idea that there are help-wanted recreated rooms in the Pizzaplex lean into the Mimic just remaking stuff it's seen. Mike's room could lean into that since Sister Location is an in-universe game, and that room is based off of the room we see in-game. So I think there's decent evidence against it, but you raise good points. C. Not a Danish. FNAF theory. The reason why Scott doesn't retcon, in his mind, is because most details in FNAF were never decided until later. Like Scott didn't decide who stuffed the kids because at that point it was irrelevant. The how of FNAF matter far less than the why and consequence of that event. Only later does he flesh out the story by adding details that weren't organically there, I assume originally. I think he stopped doing this after FNAF 4. Not a Danish. I'm not going to call that a theory. You're just right. You are correct. Scott employs what I like to call the bookman's bluff. Now that is a separate thing, but I like the terminology enough that I'm stealing it for this. It's basically you pretend to foreshadow in an ongoing story. And the way you do that is you list a lot of details that don't really necessarily connect or don't mean anything important. And you, when you're later in the story, go back and pluck those out to bring up. And now it's like there was foreshadowing all along. Scott is excellent at this. Yeah, Finley, after a while you can repost them. They're going quick. Carlos, thank you for the 5 gifted. Incredibly kind. Thank you for those memberships. And folks, if you want to support the stream but don't or can't give directly, but you want to get something cool out of it, don't forget the whole operation here is partnered with Gamer Subs. Code RITOS to get 10% off your whole order. This wasn't like a sponsored stream, but like, I just need some caffeine. I'm really thirsty and tired. It's been a day. I won't get into it because I'm just going to start venting. It's been a day. I kind of needed this. So the last one was on Twitch. We're on YouTube now. Do you think there's any... So from Levi. Do you think there's any significance in the FNAF encyclopedia differentiating animatronic humanoids like BB, Dee Dee, Ballora, etc. versus Little Joe, who is separately labeled as an animatronic human? That's really interesting. Probably not, though. I think it is interesting that they are separated, but with these small differences in the encyclopedia, I'm willing to chalk that up to creator error, because there are creator errors, like Foxy's hook hand that has gone astray, and in FNAF 3, it has gone astray. So, like, stuff like that. I think the encyclopedia got written off because it has many of these small errors, where I think the major things the encyclopedia is saying is true. It just has small errors. And I would argue animatronic humanoids versus animatronic human is a small error in accidentally creating two categories. That's my thoughts, though. Forgimus Prime. Theory. I know people like to say that the older characters all perished, but the plush babies, puppet plushes, and the existence of the mic room suggest they may all have survived with the exception of William Afton. You raise a good point. I think, as of now, we have no reason or explanation outside of the paranormal for the existence of the plush baby room in Ruin and the Nightmare-owned plushes throughout Security Breach, Ruin, and Help Wanted 2. I think as of right now, we have no explanation outside of the paranormal. That being said, it is important to note that all three people, by the time they see these things, likely have had an occipital transponder implanted in them from the Vanny mask. So is that artifacting from that transponder? Possibly. We don't know. But it is important to note that. Are redeems off? Redeems are off. If you want to make a pinned, just that redeems are off for this. It goes too quick that if I had to stop and wait for every we'd be here all night. But I give your theory a C-. It passes, but it's because you didn't swing too hard at the fences. Eczema says, my theory is that Vanessa is Mike's daughter. She's in her mid-20s and fits the timeline for Mike to be a father. Her last name starts with an A. If she is Mike's kid, then it explains a few things. I'm sorry. Logically, and with the information we have in front of us, that is possible. But you've forgotten one key thing. For your theory to be true, it would mean that Michael Afton fucks. And I don't think he does. He's kind of a big dumb idiot, you know? I think you're confusing it with the FNAF movie where he's played by Josh Hutcherson, who is very hot. But even Josh Hutcherson playing the character of Mike Schmidt is like kind of stupid. In the sense that like he's got that sleepy riz that everyone is magnetically attracted to, but he's too oblivious to make any moves, so it would never happen. I give your theory a D. Midasy? Hopefully I pronounced that right. If not, correct me. Thank you for the prime. Very kind. Can't deny the occipital nerve chip, but boy, am I getting tired of it. Me too. You've clearly never seen Rotten Michael Rye. Look, as much as I agree that there are some fine-ass interpretations of Rotten Michael, I don't think it works anymore to create life, if you know what I'm saying. Finley says, I wonder if Cassidy and Charlie are siblings or close friends. They're reflections of each other, and maybe that's why their afterlives are connected via old man consequences, potentially Henry their father or father figure. You, my friend, are hedging ever closer to the Cassidy is Sammy Emily theory, which I don't hate. Dota check, probably just the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast at gmail.com. But there's really nothing substantial to back that, besides the fact that they are a parallel of each other, which there are a lot of parallels in FNAF, and I would hesitate to say that a parallel means a direct connection. So I'm going to give your theory an E for edging. Next, the Sleepy Times, just put it in chat. Didn't know that was a theory. It's less that it's a solid theory, and just like some people have made that argument before, that in the books there's Charlie and Sammy, and maybe Sammy is the vengeful spirit in the games. Robot Botter says, the theory is that the books, like the games before Help Wanted, are made by the company and even the movies. I don't know, makes sense, right? I'm awesome, right? Yeah. So that's Fright's Fiction, and Fright's Fiction gets a big ol' F. You know what, just for that, in the cage with you. I was saving it for something really bad. That's bad enough. In the cage with you. So Fright's Fiction sucks. Okay, this is not a dig on you, Robot Botters. You seem like a nice person in this fandom. But Fright's Fiction changes so much about what we know for almost no reason. But the main problem with Fright's Fiction is the lack of substantial evidence. Whereas something like Games Fiction, or something like the games being... Oh, why did Nightbot time somebody out? Oh, I will untime you out. Hold on. Oh, it was 5 seconds anyway. That was weird. Sorry, Ito. The problem with the problem with Fright's Fiction, like I said, there's no direct evidence. Whereas something like, you know, the original FNAF games are in-universe games, there is evidence for that in Help Wanted. Whereas Fright's Fiction, the only evidence we have for that is references to Fright's events on the arcade machines. But the problem with using that as evidence is those same arcade machines reference fan games. So it seems much, much more likely that Steel Wool was just doing cool references. You can come out now. Lily of the Waves, thank you for the tier 1 sub, very kind. Cool Arts, let's see. Cool Arts says, FNAF theory. Midnight Motorist takes place during Follow Me instead of after Charlie's death. The driver is Mrs. Afton, just using William's car. The runaways, William with footsteps belonging to Shadow Freddy leading William to the building where the souls reside. There's 2 nights that involve the rain before Midnight Motorist, Charlie's death, and Follow Me. Also because the player says, my house, and the person at the head of the table in SB is the mother stand in bold claim, just an idea. Yeah, that is a bold claim. I think if we didn't have 5 Laps at Freddy's, you would have a lot more to stand on. Not only am I a huge believer in William being the Midnight Motorist driver, 5 Laps at Freddy's seems to back that up too. You know, with the car description being a great car for driving away from a murder or something like that, whatever it was. But I'll give your theory a D+. You know, it is an interesting idea. I don't think it has a lot of legs to stand on. Let's see. I'll grab one from YouTube. Hey, Bubs, you posted that 3 times, so I'm going to ignore it, but maybe post it once later. Tropic Sunday, FNAF World is an in-universe game that the puppet used as a base for Happiest Day. Maybe because Dave had happy memories of it, then Mike played them, which he is... That Mike then played, which is how he knew about the secret minigames. Tropic Sunday, I don't hate that. I do like the idea that there is physicality to Happiest Day, especially considering that there are arcade machines in the room William is at, so there's a lot of, like, power behind that. Not to mention, in the character encyclopedia, it lists FNAF World as an online MMO, which it isn't. But we know there are in-universe games, so maybe that's leaning on that in-universe FNAF World is an online MMO. I like the theory a lot. I don't think it has a lot of evidence. B-. Cosmic Milk, I assume that is. My theory is that Midnight Motors takes place after the Bite of 83. In the novels, Fredbear's is described as being off the main highway, hidden behind the trees, similar to Junior's. Yeah, no, I agree. I think Midnight Motors kind of... Oh, so you're saying it's not not Crying Child Runaway, because Bite of 83. It would be after Bite of 83. Yeah, I think I do agree with that, though. I like the idea that Junior's is the closed down Fredbear's location, because it lines up very well with the sister location power grid map and the FNAF 4 daytime map. It lines up really well with a lot of solid stuff, and then it would explain how Henry's able to buy a building for the pizzeria simulator if he's buying a closed down bar that used to be Fredbear's. Not to mention just the Midnight Motorist level in 5 Laps of Freddy's, again, bringing that up. But I feel like it also supports that idea of, like, that off the highway in a bunch of woods. Yeah, no, I just like that. I'm going to give that a solid A. Hyperdraws. Weird theory, but the replacement suits for Fredbear's from the FNAF 3 phone call were made by Murray, and that's how he joined the company as a contractor. I'm 50-50 on this. I think the call in FNAF 3 would have been FNAF 1, which I think Edwin Murray was already not working with them for. However, I do like the idea that those suits were essentially... They were ones that Murray made. They were just, like, on deck. Right? Because I do like the idea that the reason they are... What was the word he used? Inappropriate? Yeah, questions about the appropriateness of the suits. I like the idea that they're inappropriate because they're just not Freddy's characters. They're just spare characters that Edwin Murray had made and they held on to. I like that idea a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of evidence for that in Secret of the Mimic, but we don't have evidence for it yet, so it gets a B. Get with the plan. I think Gregory is an escaped Mimic too, that is mimicking David that escaped the Pizzaplex. The Mimic wanted to use Gregory to get a skin and flash replacement to get in the cage. Get in the cage. How dare you? How dare you? I'm okay with another David theory, that Gregory is essentially the Mimic trying to replace David. But you're saying you're not only bringing back Gregbot, but Gregbot as Mimic too, in the cage with you. And I want you to think about what you've done. Thank you for the $5, Robin St. Pierre. If FNAF's haunted animatronics were SCPs, which they aren't, but if they were, how would the SCP Foundation contain them? Quite easily. Big fence. No, but it depends on the animatronic, right? Most of them, big closed door. They are stuck. But things like the Phantom animatronics, can you contain them? Possibly. Things like Golden Freddy, is it physical? Hard to tell. My best guess would be something to trap them mentally. Like a pizzeria simulator type situation. Thank you for the $5, very kind. Now for a theory, the wizard must, my theory, Mangle was at the 1985 location. Since Mangle was active and saved them, and named He Was Here, the toy of Mangle was massive in 4, and Mangle being advertised as broken in 2. Yeah, no, I think the idea of Mangle literally being Funtime Foxy, as much as I hate it because they're different models, I think it does make sense. And then that would explain why Mangle could have been repurposed and why Mangle has been here long enough to see that. There's not a huge amount of evidence for it, but I do like it. I'll give it a B-. Rorivore. My theory, there are 2 glitch traps in Help Wanted 2. One is the glitch trap that gets crushed by Vanny and controlled by Vanessa. One is the glitch trap that gets crushed by Vanny and controlled Vanessa, while the glitch trap that comes out of the charge station is the Mimic, which can be backed up by their respective endings. Mimic and Cassie, Memory Plushies, and Afton. I like that. I've been a proponent of multiple glitch trap theory for quite some time. I was thinking that there's 3 glitch traps, actually. Because the Mimic itself, I don't think, is a glitch trap until it gets taken over by one. So my thinking was the glitch trap that gets crushed by Vanny is Dr. Rabbit, the glitch trap within Gregory before Security Breach. The glitch trap that exits the charging pod, also similarly Dr. Rabbit, but it gets jumped by staff bots, which is something Vanny would do. And then Vanny inhabits the mask to then take over Cassie. That was my thinking. And then glitch trap Prime is just waiting to inhabit the Mimic. But I do like your theory. I think I think multiple glitch traps makes a lot of sense. So I am going to give you... We'll go with a B-. So I'm just moving around some windows. Are we safe to Flameheart? Are we safe? This isn't really a theory, but I do want to address it because I see this a lot. Are we safe to assume Burn Trap was supposed to be the Mimic before all the mess up with development happened? No. I think it's very clear that while there was a lot of mess around the development of Security Breach, the Mimic was planned since Help Wanted, likely before, likely a while before. So I don't think the Mimic is a retcon. That doesn't make any sense. And then as far as what Burn Trap was supposed to be, I do think it was a vision. I think it was the corpse of Afton. I don't think it was meant to move yet. And Gregory is seeing that vision of what he's seen before, kind of haunting him as he goes throughout the Pizzaplex. Lally is the true mastermind behind the lore. I still understand Lally or Lally's game being super real. There was a mouse with very kind $2. Can we go back in the cage? I'm nothing if not I'm not saying that out loud. Nope, you can't make me, but I will put you in the cage. You asked so nicely. I'll fix my tie while you're in there, too. All right. Cage redeem in the future, I see it. True. I was thinking about maybe on the 3rd channel doing like longer lore deep dives that are less theory focused and more recap based, I guess. And I would probably do it in something like this. Granted, I want to do like a real one, you know, like have a real set so I can walk around, pick a book off a shelf and talk about something. But in the meantime, this might be the best solution for that. Let me get a real theory off YouTube. Just a Guy says, I think Golden Freddy is the leader of the MCI. Like, if you think about the MCI as a classroom, the puppet is the teacher, Golden Freddy is like the strict class rep that communicates with the rest of the MCI. I honestly, I don't think that's much of a theory. I think that's more just a fact. I do just think that Golden Freddy is kind of the ringleader. We see this in the Silver Eyes, we see this in the movie, and we don't see it much in the games because we don't get to see it a lot in the games. We even see it again in the week before. So I think that's just kind of a fact. So I'll give you a B. You know, I think it's a good theory, but I don't think it's that big of a swing. Who is this Dr. Rabbit? Aren't they just Gregory? It's the name I've been referring to Gregory under the control of Glitch Trap with. Dark Glitch with the $5. Do we know why Michael bullies his brother? Or is it just him being a typical jerk older brother? I think it's a bit of column A, a bit of column B. I think part of it is that he just is a bit of a jerk. But I think it also is resent, right? Like, imagine you're a teenager and you want to go hang out with your friends, but your good-for-nothing father basically says, no, you need to watch your 6-year-old brother at all times. All times. You need to constantly watch him. You can't do anything else. He's probably very resentful for that. But thank you for the $5. Not saying he should be allowed to bully the crying child, but I would think that's the reason why. So I had to text my wife. She's doing something very important that I don't want to talk about on stream. Take this theory from Twitch. Bolt Indie. Deathmare. Deathmare. I think Nightmare is Mike's interpretation of death, since he appears on night 7 after Dave dies on night 6, explaining why his jump scare noise is a distorted flatline. And one of his voice lines in William in UCN is, "You will not be spared, you will not be saved," saying it almost like a judge, jury, and executioner, and that William cannot escape death, which Nightmare himself. I like that. I like that a lot. If I remember, was it Ozone or Johnny Block? Somebody had a video about, I think theirs was Nightmare Ionin death, but I see a lot of, Ozone did, yeah, I see a lot of connections with that as well. I think that's a really solid interpretation. My preferred interpretation of the Nightmare animatronics is, it's Michael's nightmares, and in Alone Together, we learn that when a ghost is reaching out to you, they'll affect your dreams first. So I like to think that it's Michael's nightmares, and the crying child reaches out, but accidentally just adds Fredbear, right? And then with Fredbear comes the agony associated with it, which then is Nightmare. That's my thinking, but I like your interpretation as well, Bold Inti. I think both of our interpretations here don't have too much solid evidence behind it, so I am going to give yours a B-, but it is good. I do like it. Let me grab one from YouTube. Man, I forgot why I don't do the thesis streams too much. Not because I don't like being Theory Jesus. I think that's a fun bit and I want to bring it back eventually. This is exhausting. I love doing this, but it's a lot of talking without a lot of not talking. Let's go for Bryson on the blue. I know this might not be correct. Well, they're theories. All of them might not be correct. But one of my theories is that Shadow Freddy is just a suit that William uses to trick the animatronics into thinking they are one of them so he can destroy them. Bryson. Did I say Bryson on the blue? It's Bryson the blue. Bryson the blue. Before... don't want to get my dates wrong. So I'm just going to spoil what I was about to say. Theory Jesus has returned on Good Friday. Is it Good Friday? That's so funny. Wait, I should have done Theory Jesus, but I think that actually would have gotten me in trouble to do it on fucking Good Friday. That's crazy. Wait, I'm sorry. Super big tangent here. All right, let me finish this. Before the FNAF movie, I would have called you crazy, but in the FNAF movie, there's literally a purple Freddy suit. Granted, it's next to Sparky, so, you know, but I think there is merit. I think it's wrong, though. You get a D. So, I need to confirm something for the people who believe in it in chat. Good Friday and Sunday, like Easter Sunday, isn't it that Jesus rises on Easter Sunday? Is Good Friday him dying? Because that's crazy. Like, I understand it's for, like, a good cause or whatever, but that's crazy if him dying is the good one? Wouldn't it be Good Sunday and, like, Sad Friday? That's kind of crazy. That's a little crazy. That's just me. I don't know. It's bittersweet. Look, I've watched Jesus Christ Superstar. I fully understand the Christian religion. Okay? First of all, right? But second of all, like, I get it. It just, on the surface, it's a little wild. Which is good because it saves us. I mean, it wasn't good for him in the moment. Got to celebrate dying for our sins. I get that. Okay. It's just, on the surface, it's crazy. I do like, someone made a little joke in the Garden of Gethsemane. I always mispronounce it, but it's I believe in the Bible. Now I could be misquoting. I'm no expert here, but there is a moment where, in asking God for guidance, he kind of lets Jesus know, like, you will die for all of humanity's sins. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it that in the Bible, God Gethsemane, that God just says, basically, like, here's all the sins humanity will commit, and then Jesus does it anyway. Right? Is that true? Because there's a bit, someone said, that if that's true, then it's canon that Jesus saw, like, Wario inflation porn in that moment, which is crazy. Yeah, that's true? Okay, cool. Yeah, probably. In some Christian canon, yes, that's fair. I had a whole rant about Christian canon. We talk about Bible now, just briefly, because I didn't realize it was Good Friday today. I had a whole rant, like, this was months ago. I think like 10 people in chat are going to be like, oh yeah, when we were talking about the last time that Christianity was brought up, and this might just be because I watched Jesus Christ Superstar, but it was that, like, I don't get why so many people are mad at Judas, because, like, isn't that God's plan? Like, he would have had to do that for Jesus to be killed for humanity's sins, right? I don't know. It was my belief, from my knowledge of it, of like, didn't he have to do that? It was a part of the plan. Why do so many people hate him? And then we looked it up, and there's actually a sect of Christianity that, like, respects Judas, and they supposedly, now this is not confirmed in the accepted Christian canon, but there is supposedly a book of Judas of the Bible from Judas's perspective, being like, yeah, like, I didn't want to, but I would, like, I also knew that I had to do this. And that's like, it's like a heated debate whether that's a real book of the Bible or not. It's really interesting. Yeah, even Jesus knew. Jesus was like, I know you're gonna do it. I don't know. We're totally off topic, but, you know, Good Friday threw me off. I didn't realize it was fucking Good Friday. Book of Judas sounds like a Bible fanfic. I mean, that's the argument. The argument is it real, or is it like someone just wrote it and said, look what I found? Because that's it's religious text and religious canon is super interesting to me as, like, anthropology wise. The idea that, like, in so many religions, it's eclectic, where there isn't an agreed upon cohesive story. It's, you know, the collective works of the people we have studied and worshipped. And it's really only in Christianity where there are, like, 3 accepted, this is the canon. You know, and even then, there are sects of Christianity that disagree with that. It's really interesting. I love the anthropology sake of studying religious texts, like in, you know, like all, like, religions. It's just really interesting to me. Anyway. This is a crazy detour. Look, I didn't realize it was Good Friday. That kind of tells you how my brain works. That, like, that's really interesting to me, is, like, reading up on other religions and their unaccepted canons. We can go back to we can go back to FNAF now. Because, like, I'm Wiccan, so I have no stake in this race. I think there's a little bit of truth in everyone's religion, right? I think personally, my core belief is that religion is how we individually interpret the divine, and whatever that means to you is true to you. Whereas I just see it as the earth itself. But that, you know, that's I have no stake in this race. Please, back to FNAF respectfully. I understand. A lot of people don't want to talk about this, and I'm probably stepping on toes here. Let's see. Hyperdraws. The shadow animatronics are beings of pure agony that take the form of other beings that are surrounding them, and they feed off remnant that emanate around tragedies. Yeah, I think that's super solid. I would argue, why is it then that Shadow Freddy is FNAF 1 Freddy? I guess it is in the Closet of the Withers, so that's fair. Yeah, no, I don't think I necessarily disagree with that. My counter argument would be that Shadow Bonnie is still Shadow Bonnie, Toy Bonnie specifically, during special delivery. Which seems to say that it is linked with Toy Bonnie specifically. Wait, okay, one last tangent, because Theory Chum said something really interesting. Here's a Christian theory. The reason Scott says they're not ghosts in FNAF is because they are spirits. While similar, they have the nuance that separates them. A spirit is the energy of consciousness. No, that's actually a really solid point on why... Because the interesting thing about spirituality in FNAF is that ghosts aren't really like ghosts. It seems much more true to FNAF to say that the energy of memory is what is present. It's not like I am just a ghost. It's their memories that are still alive. And that's like what Remnant is. So that's an interesting angle to look at it. Flameheart, the blob is the game's version of the massive rabbit statue from the books. Well, it wasn't a rabbit statue, it was the agony. But yeah, you're probably right. Give it like a B. That's crazy, Josh Hosky. That's crazy. Chill a little bit. Thank you. I'll take the compliment. Chill a little bit. Oh, stream setup. Okay. I misread you. I misread. I was like, God damn. Lily of the Waves kind of reminds me of Butch Hartman saying there's no ghost in Danny Phantom. Okay. That's true. I thought that was a theory. That hit me like whiplash. Corn particles. My theory, in Drowning, the headset having a 0 setting is the first place. The headset having a 0 setting in the first place seems like it's there to intentionally overdose people on adrenaline and give them heart attacks. Like, I know that specific incident was an accident, but why did they even make that an option? Maybe related to Remnant Plex. Corn particles, you're not wrong. Like, it's literally like, it's every cartoon of like, why did you build a self-destruct button if you didn't want to self-destruct your machine? So why did you have a set? I know we accidentally turned it onto the you get overdosed on adrenaline button, but why is there a you get overdosed on adrenaline button? No, that's a super solid point. B+. Ross said, "Damn, I'm married. Damn straight." Well, none of us are, but let's be real. Designated iPad time. I have a wife I need to text. She's busy. Quit lacking on the job. She's busy. Decompressing soda. Or decomposing soda. Sorry. it's like imagine I'm like, my wife is very hold on, I gotta set this up first. My wife is very busy right now. I'm texting her to make sure she's okay. Like, could you imagine? Decomposing soda. Theory. The animatronics that Edwin built was the rock stars, since Chica is called Yellow, Metal, and Shiny in the Mimic story, and Carney, a rock star, was at the 70s Fall Fest. You have a good point, because the Chica he's building is yellow and metal. It's like not a it's not a felt suit, which is interesting. That was the thing that I keep trying to point out, that like in the books Edwin Murray is making metal costumes, but in the game so far it seems like Ed Murray's costume manner is felt. Now we don't know what he was specifically contracted to build for Fazbear, so maybe it was more of a like, hey, you can build felt stuff, but can you make us metal stuff, please? I don't know. It's something that's worth pointing out, but I think linking the rock stars to Edwin makes sense, especially since they definitely are on purpose linking Lefty to Carney. Like, that's not an accident. They're in the same damn pose. So you're right to point that out. I'll give you that. I'll give that an A-. Maybe Murray bills things with steel wool, but tis. Get in the fucking cage. Theory from Bone Glove. Both endings of Help Wanted 2 happen, because the Vanny ending brings you to the minigame beaten screen, while the other two and Help Wanting 1 endings don't. And it's not like it's because they need to give you a reward, because the other Help Wanted 2 endings give you a reward, so not going to that screen. The Vanny ending brings you to the minigame beaten screen? If that's true, that's actually pretty solid. I'd have to double check that. If that's true, that is good evidence for that. I give that a conditional A+, but I have to double check. Has there been any noticeable change in that curious counter cipher? Not yet, but it got pretty close the other day. Yay, cage time. Is that your enrichment time? Should I put a little like hamster water thing in there? I should have known, thinking about it now, that there is a vast percentage of chat who would want to be put in a cage. Anyway, Mr. Ghost, I think the mimic was once Puppet's endoskeleton, giving the puppet behavior pre-possession, as well as the appearance of both animatronic, the mimic's metal, being all those left after the fire. I'm gonna give it a D. I think you have a solid point. The only problem is I don't think the puppet could have an endoskeleton. It is literally a stick with a mask. And like it's moved with the strings. It's a marionette, right? But I see where you're coming from with the connection. There's something there, but I don't think endoskeleton is the right angle. Put a Gamer Subs hamster bottle in the cage. That would be pretty funny. Oh, we have a creature of the void stopping by. Everyone say hello to the creature of the void. This one is Casey. He will stay as long as he chooses, and I cannot force him to stay further. Dedicated TV. Oh, well, thank you for the 10 bits. I was going to grab that anyway, but anyway. Thank you for the 10 bits. Theory that has no evidence. Carney gets possessed by someone during Fall Fest. Charlie's lost, not the Sammy connection. Ties in the bad plot twist of Silver Eye series, gives justification for save him possibly. Gives a really good reason for wound first inflicted on me. Plus, narratively, having the long-lost brother possessed animatronic be repurposed to capture his animatronic possessed sister goes crazy. Oh, so you're saying Carney gets possessed by Sammy, and then Carney is repurposed as Lefty, still having Sammy, and Sammy's possessed animatronic captures Charlie. That does go crazy. I don't think Scott is a good enough writer to think that out. That's where I'm at. I think that's super cool. I don't think like you said, there's no evidence for it. So I'll give it a B- because it's just sheer cool. Bub's Gaming. Fredbear is so old that the Afton family business, where William's parents... Oh, Fredbear's is so old that it is the Afton family business, where William's parents owned the Sing and Show. Why else would William think animatronic dancing sucks? Because he went to his parents' shows. That's not a bad idea, because Fredbear's Sing and Show is weird. And it being just like a family business, that gives it more credence. So that's fair. I like that. I'll give it like a C+. Void creature. I saw you press the add button. I don't have an add button. I just have it do it automatically because I'm lazy. Creature. Creatura. I was thinking about the character of the professor, right? Because, like, I'm a theater kid at heart. If I'm dressing up, I want to play a character. I don't want to just be wry but dressed well. And I was wondering if, like, what if the professor, especially if I start doing those lore deep dive videos, what if I'm just, like, a researcher into the Eldritch? And, you know, maybe I'm just a skin suit for some otherworldly creature. I think that could be fun. The creature. Oh, yeah, sorry. The creature feature. Featuring the creature. Love how cats just stare. He is hitting the Miley Cyrus stare. He's gonna bite me soon. Not because he's mad, he's purring. His tail is wagging. He wants to play. Flameheart with the $2, very kind. Joke theory, Afton is the one that hit David. He had the car. There's a David out in the road. Is that Midnight Motorist? It's just him. No thanks, only stinks. This is the stinky one. Me and Casey are IBS girlies. Well, I mean, Casey's a he, but we're still IBS girlies together. He literally has IBS. He's so... all my cats are very chill. Like... Oh, he wants to play. You see that tail wagging in the background? Hold on, I wonder if I can angle it so you can see it. That tail's going. Alright, you can play over there. I don't want you to get claws in my nice new clothes that I spent very little money on Amazon for. Ow, there's the bite. He likes to wrestle. Georged. I like Georged as a past tense. I have a theory that sponsorship Rye is actually stuck in an agony hallucination, and Afton gives them the scripts as experiments. Got an OG who remembers that sponsorship Rye is the actual correct Rye. I don't want to spoil too much of that lore. I'm in a weird spot. Okay, I'm going to break character for a little bit. I'm in a weird spot with this sponsorship lore, where I want to make big moves, but it's been so long since I first established the original. Nobody will fucking remember it. so I mean, that's my problem in a nutshell. Where I'm like, if I make a big move, like 10% of the people are gonna be like, oh shit, that's what that means. Maybe I'll do a last time on. But then if I end it, what the fuck am I gonna do for sponsorships? It's funny, I'm a bastard. The most important sponsor for the lore of the Backrooms things is locked behind one of my least popular videos, aka how to write an effective creepypasta. Oh, my back. Oh. How should we submit theories? Just put them in chat. Yeah, 40 bits. Next Rido's video sponsor compilation. That would be funny. Theory from the Sleepy Times. My theory / idea is that the storyteller shows the exact moment when Glitchtrap took over the Pizzaplex as a whole. That's when Burroughs went into the storyteller tree to check on Murray. With Burroughs suffocating in the tree, Glitchtrap would have the chance to call all the staff meeting so the staff wouldn't find out a rogue copy of their AI replaced their CEO. I think that's really solid. Especially if we're considering that the storyteller is whatever collapsed in Roxy Raceway. That big Freddy head with a bunch of wires going through it. I think that's really solid, because I do think the storyteller is kind of the introduction of Glitchtrap to the Pizzaplex. Makes a lot of sense. I do like that a lot. Even if they're in on it, right? That's the turning point. Roland cast theory. We know for a fact that Edwin exists. We also know that he was hired by Fredbear Family Diner. I believe that Chica was a concept after the mediocre melodies were spotted by William Afton and Henry Emily. So Chica wasn't a mediocre melody, but was inspired by them. I like it. There's not really a lot of evidence for it, but it's pretty solid. I'll give you a C+. Why is there a heart-shaped tomato on the side of my screen? That is a Twitch redeem thing that won't work right now, so don't do it. But it allows you to just throw tomatoes on screen and stuff. Big Wheel Forever. Theory. Mike lived FNAF 6. The main evidence is a FNAF AR message addressed to Michael Afton. Others are that it would not be a stretch that Mike got out due to the Henry stating there is a way out. Also, Mike is not in Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF World. All characters in these two games that appear are linked to William or Ghosts. All this stated Mike fits the criteria, but he is absent from both. Also, why would Mike get a message saying not to return to work after Henry's speech if he were dead? It's solid. I lost it immediately. Who said that? Big Wheel Forever. It's one of those things that, like, I admit there is evidence for Michael surviving. I just hope he didn't. I just really hope he didn't. Just narratively. I think I'm gonna give you a B+. I think that's well argued. It's well evidenced. It's just, I hope not. God, my head is pounding today. I don't know if it's I need more caffeine, need more water. I don't know what it is, but I got a wicked headache. I'll tell you what. Understandable. Rye said, screw that twink. I wouldn't call Josh Hutcherson a twink, but yeah, essentially. You know, you raise a good point. Like Horace Wright. Folks over on YouTube, I am reading from both chats. Twitch does have a bigger text limit. You can just send bigger messages on Twitch. Just letting you know. Doom Boom says, I really like the idea of the daycare attendants being made by Edwin, made during Fall Fest era because they're originally stage performers. They have similar endo pieces to the Mimic. Yeah, I think as time goes on, that's becoming less of a theory and more of just true. There's a text limit on Twitch. I believe it's 500 characters. I've hit it before. Josh a twink. Where's the twink? That's just that. Josh Hutcherson is not a twink. But, yeah, screw that twink. Specifically, in-game Michael Afton. Yeah, I think it's becoming less of a theory and more just a fact. I think more and more evidence comes out to say that that's pretty much right. And yeah, not to mention, as Rorvor brings up, in the book it's literally stated Sun and Moon were taken by an old theater. I don't know if that's... I remember it, they worked at the daycare theater and were then put into the daycare full-time because something happened to the previous daycare attendant that we just don't know. Right, I want that twink destroyed. I should not... If I say the words in my brain, I will get in trouble. So I won't make the joke that I want to. Let's go to the next theory. That random too. I have a theory that Ennard and the Mimic are the same thing. Basically, that wires that make up Ennard are wrapped around the Mimic's endoskeleton. That's why they can stand up straight. That can also explain how Michael stands up after having his insides ripped out, since Mimic's endo is now in Michael. This also explains how the Mimic ended up in the FNAF 6 basement. Interesting that random too. I would argue there's enough endoskeleton parts that it doesn't need an endoskeleton. And I would also argue that the Mimic endo is probably just in the FNAF 6 basement. It's probably just stuck there. But all that to say, that is I think that's a solid theory. There's just not a lot of evidence for it. I'd give it like a C+. It's just people saying "say, coward." Don't make me report you to the dean. That's what I'm saying. I'm the professor. I'm having my office hours. I can't say, of course I would destroy a twink. I can't say that right now. Will I have to study abroad option? Will I have study abroad options next semester? I mean, if you're in the U.S., you might want to get abroad as fast as possible. Let's see. Ratlum. I'm not sure if it's so much a theory, but I always interpreted the reasoning for 2 bites was that Jeremy was one of the FNAF 4 bullies, with Mango biting him being a form of karma / twisted fate. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I only hesitate because I'm thinking more and more that Jeremy Help Wanted is Bonnie Bully, and in the week before, it stated the bite victim isn't able to do much of anything anymore. So I'm hesitant to say it's... I mean, granted, you just said Jeremy. But because I think Bonnie Bully is Jeremy Help Wanted, it limits him from being Jeremy Fitzgerald. Instructions unclear. I'm now dating a woman from the 1940s. Get abroad to get abroad. True. The void creature is back. Got with the plan. Theory. The mimic was used to make the Stitch Wraith. All we know is that the Doctor Who the hell used an agony-infested endoskeleton. I assume you mean Dr. Talbert. Oh no, is it Talbert or Taggart? Phineas Taggart is the remnant guy, so it's Talbert, yeah? I don't know. I'm never going to forgive Scott for having 2 very important characters and giving them basically the same name. Talbert was remnant, Taggart was... So, Phineas Taggart was the agony guy. And Dr. Talbert didn't write a book. Got it. Okay, got it. I mean, it's possible, but I don't... As much as I think the Mimic was in the minds early Help Wanted, like in the creation of Help Wanted, the Mimic was planned. I don't know if the Mimic was planned back in Fazbear Frights. Cat Thulu, he's returned. Cat Thulu's pretty solid. The Taggart records. Taggart also received Jackie's empty Jack-in-the-Box. Wait, hold on. You're cooking. He did receive a broken Jack-in-the-Box, didn't he? Okay, maybe the Mimic was thought this far back. That's crazy. I mean, it's also considering that the marionette was already in a Jack-in-the-Box. You know? Casey, you can't bite my headphone cable. That's solid. First of all, think of the $2. That's interesting. Opinion on Oswald's dad being the Freddy bully? Probably. Interesting. But then why? Interesting. Folks, I've been doing this for an hour and 14 minutes. I think I got like 15 to 20 minutes left in me. Because, I'm really tired, actually. And this is a lot of talking. But I'm glad y'all like The Professor, his first appearance. Who knows when they'll be back. Maybe on the 3rd channel when I have time to do that kind of a video. Crackhead Theory. Thank you, Jakers Quakers. I think Molten Freddy has Molten in their name because they fell in a fire pit but got out. That hurt to read. I'm going to be super real with you. I thought I was having a stroke. But that being said, I don't think it's necessarily that direct. I think it's just they melded together. Right? Seeker of Comfiness. Good username. Elizabeth is the one who says, I will put you back together. If Molten MCI and Shatter Victim are true, then Baby's entered plan literally puts him back together. The mango in her room was a hint too. Huh. And this links back with the fact that Circus Baby had access to the plush to Fredbear plush. Huh. That's crazy. Seeker of Comfiness, you might be fucking cooking. I'm giving that an A. Okay, what did Joss say? Puppet is canonically Ban parent? Yeah. See, I hate that I made the cage a punishment, because now you sick freaks just know that if you act out, you get punished. Seeker of Confidence, that's a really interesting theory. I might make a whole video off that, to be honest with you, combining that with with what the other person said earlier. That's really, really solid. Because it's one of those things that I don't know if it's true. Should have known your audience better. I should have. I don't know if it's true. But the combination of Circus Baby having access to that plush remote and being the one who puts everyone together, that's really interesting. Interesting. You can come out now. Vinny Vin V, I have a Mexus theory. I think the Mexus machine was an early version of the puppet, since the puppet is programmed to protect and has been sealed in its box maliciously, damning a young girl to her death that could be avoided if the puppet / Mexus weren't interfered with. Charlie and Cassie. That's not a bad idea. I do like that. I think the issue is I like John FNAF's theory that we're bringing Mexus to Edwin's Manor. Because he did connect a pretty good point that we're putting Mexus in the back of a van and help on it too, and then that van is rolling up. That's really interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily an early puppet, but I see the connection. I'll give that a B. Connie Blackwood. Welcome, Connie. Speaking of Ban, me and Corey think that Ban and Poppy Playtime basements got so big they connected like over the garden wall, which is saying something because Ban is in Canada. You're not wrong. Also, I haven't watched Over the Garden Wall, so I don't know what you mean by that. It is crazy how big Ban and Poppy Playtime's basements have gotten. That the gimmick is it just keeps going down. You just keep going down, and it keeps going. Sacrilege? I know I gotta watch Over the Garden Wall. It's good. I just haven't gotten there yet. I don't have time. I'm too busy playing Binding of Isaac and watching YouTube in my free time. Wait for autumn, though. Look, if I had my way, every day would be autumn. One of my favorite pieces of clothing is a pea coat. Alright? Part of this outfit includes the pea coat for one day where I can actually film my full body. It just doesn't look nice. It doesn't look as good when I sit down. Pea coat. Center bottle. In the cage. I have a theory that the prototype is the fucking mimic. I mean, her name is the fucking mimic. Oh yeah, her name is the fucking mimic. Oh yeah, that is true. Baby was probably just memeing when she said you won't die. True. You know, that is a good... Wait, that kind of... Hold on. Wait, I'm not done with this. I'm pulling up what Baby says at the end of FNAF 6. Hold the fucking phone. The 100 bits theory cooker. While I pull this up, my FNAF theory is the crying child isn't Dave or even in Afton. I think the minigames of FNAF 4 are entirely in the SL bunker. I think William is recreating Dave's death to research how to put him back together. This is because of the stationary children and the Fredbear plushes all over the show. Yeah, no, I had a theory that the FNAF 4 daytime minigames are literally like chamber recreations like Didophobia. And I think if that's true, those chambers were reused for FNAF 6. I like that. B+. But thank you for the 100 bits. Very kind. Holy shit, wait, we're right. We're on to something. Okay. Circus Baby. Talking through the Fredbear plush to the crying child. I will put you back together. Circus Baby said that. Elizabeth Afton thinks she is the good guy. Elizabeth Afton thinks she is saving her family. She is following William's lead and following what William believed in. Because she believes one second. I gotta send something to my wife. Because she believes that William Afton will bring back everyone who's lost. The crying child dies first. That's why she's in. No, wait, no, she would have to die before him because she's talking through the walkie-talkie. Oh, okay. There's one stinky thing we'll get to. Which we'll get to. We'll save it for the end when we talk about the stinky parts of this. But she is doing the sister location stuff and making Ennard to put everyone back together. Because all she knew is that William said he will put them back together. She's saying, I will put them back together. And then she tries to do that. She tries to put them back together with Ennard, and they don't listen to her. They force her out. They break her out. She knows she's right, and she knows everyone will be okay if they listen to her, but they won't anymore. But then in FNAF 6, when everyone ends up back at the FNAF 6 pizzeria, what is the one thing she says? This was a gift for us. You gathered them all together in one place, just like he asked you to. Now we can do what we were created to do and be complete. We can be put back together again. Watch, listen, and be full is her thinking, we've finally done what my dad wanted because we are going to be fixed and saved. We are going to be put back together. That's heat. That's heat. There's one problem. This would mean Elizabeth dies first, which means the sister location animatronics were created before anybody died, which would mean that William just made child kidnapping robots for no reason. And that's stinky. That does suck. But I like everything else about that. Everything else about that I liked. Man, can't a guy have hobbies? True. William is just like that. He just made them because he wants to. Charlie could still die before Liz, prompting William's remedy experiments on death. Well, Charlie doesn't just die. Charlie gets killed. Why? Elizabeth dies, realizes what her dad is doing, then speaks to her dead brother. Exactly. She doesn't need to die first. The bite can happen before her death. The crying child just needs to hear it before he moves on / fully dies. No, because this would imply that she's talking through the plush walkie-talkie in the sister location basement. It could be okay with a wound inflicted on me. Maybe there is something there that William was aware of. Oh, maybe wound first inflicted on me is the reason William makes it. But then what is the wound first inflicted on? It would be Charlie's death, right? Unless we learn something from Fall Fest. Hey, if we get any reason for him to build the fun times from Secret of the Mimic, this might be the answer. That answers all of this. Well, I think I know what next week's video is going to be. Thank God, because I'm running out of ideas. I'm being super real. That being said, we've been doing this for an hour and a half. Usually I stream for like 3 to 4 hours, but in this stream where I'm constantly reading and talking really quickly, I'm tired. I'm eepy. I think I need to just call it here. So thank you all for joining my office hours. But we're going to push our Twitch folks somewhere else with a raid. If you want to join us, it's a really fun thing you can do where you take your Twitch audience and you push them somewhere else. It's a way to share community. You can only do that over on Twitch, so make sure to go join us over there. The link is the pinned. I think I do want to make videos as the professor. I think this would be great for the main channel, but I don't want to change anything too drastically because I'm afraid I'll spiral out of control wildly. So again, join us over on Twitch if you want to join for the raid, but the stream is ending now. We're actually going to raid Reaps because a friend of the channel, we love that guy. He's a great content creator. He's Australian, does horror content. Probably no stream tomorrow for personal reasons. It's been a hell of a week and a hell of a day. But I wanted to get this stream out because I know I'm not going to stream tomorrow. But bye, y'all.